First thing on our agenda, under administrative matters, is introduction and approval of new shared administrative assistant. We have Janet here, Janet Fitzgerald, right? Fairchild, I'm sorry.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, please do. And I think, does she need to sign in?
I've already listed everything that's here.
Here's a copy. I know that Anne has passed along my resume, but just in case you
Yeah.
didn't bring it with you.
Thank you, Annie.
You don't sit still, that's good.
Yep. Don't. And I've had the pleasure of helping out a little bit with your minutes, so I've helped Shelley with a couple of sets that you'll get to take a peek at, but I have seen several of your meetings on tape, and I do understand that's a priority with you folks, and I will do my absolute best to keep you up to date and keep your minutes current so that
Okay.
you're feeling comfortable with that. I have done the minutes for the planning board and the master planning implementation committee for the last 6 months, 7 months. I've also have experience doing it for the Westford Conservation Commission for a dozen years, and I've helped out with the Board of Selectmen. So I know you all have different styles and different personalities, and I'll learn how you like to have things done, and welcome your feedback.
Yeah, one of the things that we're trying to do is take a step back and just revisit how we're running administratively for the most part. And part of that would be, thankfully, you're here. We're really glad about that. But Anthony, we asked you to come. Anthony, one of the reasons was to get a good idea of roles and responsibilities, and because we're not totally clear on that. And since you guys, the town hall is employing the administrative assistant, we went over what the responsibilities of the board were. But I'm wondering if you could give us an overview of what the role and responsibility is of this position.
I think that might be better for her position.
Yeah,
I know it's a shared position between building department, Board of Health, ZBA. So I'm not sure, is it 18 hours kind of?
It's 18 hours a week.
Yeah.
Dedicated to the Board of Health. There is a separate job description, for this position, which goes into some of those responsibilities. So if you don't have that, you certainly should.
okay, yeah, can we get a copy of that?
Yeah, I can run downstairs and actually get it.
Oh, that'd be great.
right now. Yeah.
You know what, I have it in my
So that we can be really clear
Oh, yeah.
about what's gonna happen in there. There's no miscommunication. I think that's the best way to do it.
Okay?
Yeah, but you can give it to him. I can give it
I'm gonna email Aaron.
Oh, you're gonna email it to him?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're email buddies.
We had a few things that, and I'll just go over this and then you guys can ask questions, but just to lay it out, we wanted to try to get on a schedule because poor Shelley has been doing multiple
12 jobs at once.
Yes, yeah. And so we need to kind of revisit where we're at and then come up to date. And the minutes, we need to keep in compliance with the open meeting law.
Mhm.
So, and we need to talk to Jim about this too, because we've had recently some issues with just getting things too late, and this isn't about your job, but just overall, getting things too late, not having the capacity to review things and come up with thoughtful responses that we can discuss as a board, and we want to change that so that anything that we do or comments, I know we're going to be talking about some comments that went through tonight, but we're trying really hard to get on a schedule and keep everybody on it. So, we're going to ask Jim to have all the notes in on Friday. And I think it's going to make your life a lot easier, because you shouldn't have to be hustling around at the last minute. And then we'd like to start a couple of logs on requests that come into the Board of Health. And all that is just what the request is and a date, and we can work with you on that. And then the other thing is that we wanted to do, in addition to the minutes, was also keep a log. And we'll have to develop some sort of tracking sheet that would serve as a cheat sheet for us to make sure that we're consistent across all the decisions that we're handing down. So I don't think this is going to be extra work on this. I think it's actually going to make things a lot easier.
Mhm.
So those are the types of things, but we'll get the roles and responsibilities, and then we can hammer all that out, put it down in writing, and then you'll have that. And I think that'll make it'll be easier. So then I want to just open it up to everybody to ask any questions you have of Janet.
Was that the last part that you said, is that more like that history that we talked about, so that we could go back and say,
Yeah.
okay, what house was, or what property was what? Because, you know, there could be two houses on you know, on Harwood or something
Yeah.
like that. Which one are you talking about?
And what
That
the
one or
issue
that one?
was.
Yeah, yeah.
So that we're
Yeah,
consistent.
because
when
you
we-
talked about a spreadsheet, so
Yeah.
that we could go down by address and see what was asked, and see what we decided on, that kind of thing.
We're going to get a little fancy.
Sounds easy.
And just
Easy,
sort it
yeah.
and stuff. It'll be easy, promise.
That's fine.
Well, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too,
I
Gina.
read your resume, it's very impressive. The question is, maybe you're not too familiar with the Board of Health, but the question is, you do your best.
Yes.
And the young lady over there, don't tell her that I say that I love her job. We miss her. Just ask any question if you need to
I will.
ask. She will be very kind to give you an answer, and she will guide you the right direction.
She will.
You do that, you will have no problem with us.
Great. Sounds perfect.
Are you gonna be at the meetings, or are you just gonna watch on video, like sometimes Shelley does?
I'm going to be here, right?
Yeah, we'd
Yes.
like to have you here.
Till they say she doesn't have to be.
Well, welcome, you have big shoes to fill, so I'm sure you'll
Yeah,
live up to it.
I will do my best, but yes, Shelley's got a lot to teach me.
Well, you'll be
Basically, her
learning with
duties
Kevin
during
and
the week
I.
are, you know, she's, in this shared position, it works out well because she's here for 40 hours, so she actually provides 40 hours of office presence for the public to come in and look at files.
Okay.
So even though it's a shared position, that she only specifically has 18 hours for the Board of Health, the office is essentially open for 40 hours, so the public can come in at any time and ask for files. We get a lot of realtors, appraisers, Title V inspectors that come in. And then on top of that, she'll be here at the meetings to do minutes and prepare the packets and, you know, whatever else you ask of her. But just being aware that she essentially really only has 18 Board of Health hours.
Anything
Fast.
new?
Type fast.
Well, I guess if everything, may I make a motion to see if we have the ability to say yes to this young lady, or we're gonna be lonely as we were for a long time?
I'll second.
Okay, you second, all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You will not be
Thank you very
disappointed.
And the other thing is, if you have any problems, we'd appreciate it if you'd come and talk to us about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Thank you for coming.
And I just got the job description. Shelley, yeah, so, did you email Shelley too?
No, Shelley gave it to me, so I'm forwarding it.
Oh,
I know
okay.
Shelley
Could
has
you
it.
just put that in the record, Shelley, so it's part of the minutes? Okay, that'd be great, thank you. And then everybody will see them. Okay. So we do have minutes, and I'm wondering if we could put those off to the end to
we
approve so
can
that
do
we
that.
can get through the rest of the agenda items. Okay. Correspondence, don't think we have any correspondence, right?
No,
Nope.
And then board member updates, and Anthony, thank you for coming. I thought we could probably talk here about what we wanted to just talk to you about. And is this our attorney, is this town council?
Yes, this
Yes.
is Tom Council.
I am Tom Harrington.
Hi. So,
Yeah, your request.
yeah.
Tom and I are here to answer any questions.
Yeah, and really, it's just, I'm just going to throw out a couple of things that we had talked about. And one is the roles and responsibilities. So we wanted to get, that was really helpful, so we'll know exactly what the administrative assistant is responsible for. But we'd also like to see, if possible, what the Neshoba Board of, affiliated Board of Health, or Jim Gareffi, do we have a contract with him, with a scope of work for him, for them?
Yes. Shelley, can you, what do we have with Jim for as far as the number of hours a week? Is it
I don't think it's a specific hourly thing. There is a contract that I know Bonnie has.
Yeah,
And, you know, he has the 2 office hours,
right.
Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then he does all the inspections, all
Right.
field inspections, and they do all the permitting for, you know, sewage disposal systems, wells, food. They do all the food inspections. And then on top of that, they provide all the nursing services to the town. So it's pretty significant with the services that Neshoba provides. We could get probably a copy of the contract of everything that they do from Bonnie. And you can see all the services that are provided, but, you know, basically Jim's duties as a health agent is, you know, he handles all the housing inspections, the septic inspections, the well inspections.
So if we could get a copy of the contract with the scope of work, that'd be really helpful. And then we'll put that in the record, and then I'll just, yeah. it'll be
Mr. Chairman,
there.
Mrs. Chairman,
Yeah.
I'm asking you, the reason that you like to have the contract. I can vouch for Jim, for our agent. I've known him for many years, maybe 14, 15 years. He has done a beautiful job to us. I don't think you'll find anybody else that will be replaced. So the reason that you like to see the contract is why? So you can maybe look for another agent?
No.
All right, that's my
Oh, no, no.
concern.
No, scope of work.
Okay,
So because the Board of Health has responsibilities,
okay.
and so we wanted to see the scope of work just to
Right.
ensure that we were meeting all our responsibilities, that's all.
May I
It's just
add,
administrative.
may
It's
I
got-
add
we-
something else? Because the attorney is here, I wonder if he will understand my question, and I'm gonna tell my board. The Board of Health is maintained by the state. We have nothing to do with the planning board or any other department. The state mandate the Board of Health for Title V. And the Board of Health is responsible to give variance. In some cases, it may be 90%. When somebody has a property and they have a problem, they come in front of the Board of Health. They go through the system, planning board, conservation, but we make the final decision. So let's not overstep the state regulation to a point where we discourage people in Littleton because they have a piece of property, that we cannot allow them some, am I correct, attorney?
I'm not exactly sure what you're saying.
Saying that when they have a piece of property, we are responsible to comply to his wishes as long as he goes through the Title V.
Well, you serve as the state's arm on Title V
Right,
applications.
right.
Right.
And in our jurisdiction, that sometimes we can allow some variance, which might not, somebody like it, but we have the obligation to allow the variance in some different cases. All depends what case it will be. Will be, for instance, the water level is too high, they need like 2 feet to go up, or they might be too close to the river or to the pond. That is our responsibility to follow the Title V. And if there's a problem, we go to the DEP, and they make a decision. But we have to understand that we represent the people in Littleton by following the state law.
I agree with that last sentence.
Thank you.
Just
Yeah,
getting
yeah.
back to
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you, Gino?
Very, very well, thank you.
And it is one of the reasons we asked for this is because we're just checking, it's got nothing, I
No,
think
no.
everybody's happy with Jim.
Like I
But
say, I'm
there
not gonna
are-
reprimand you guys, I'm just to let you know.
Yeah, but I just want to point out, just for the record, that there are other responsibilities of the Board of Health beyond Title V. And those are very clear, and they're in the state regulations, that's all.
But-
And so we just wanted to go through those and make sure that our scope of work,
Mhm.
matched up with it, that's all. Anybody else want to speak to?
Shelley had given me this a while back as the services of the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, and it's
Oh.
pretty thick and it outlines everything they do.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, can we,
Make
oh,
some
this is
copy.
the services, though, so this isn't what we're contracted with to do.
No, but it's everything Neshoba
Yeah.
does, which is a lot.
So we just wanted to make sure that they were responsible for everything that we've got. It's just administrative, it's not. anything beyond that. So, I think, was there anything else on roles and responsibilities that we wanted to talk to Anthony about?
Now's your chance.
Yeah, this is it. Get him once.
No, I'm around all the time. You guys are always welcome in my office.
I know. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay, and then we're lucky enough to have town council, and thank you for coming, thank you for arranging it. So we wanted to ask you some questions and just kind of flesh out a couple of things. One is on the open meeting law, and so that's part of the issue with trying to facilitate communication within the board and being able to do our job and come out with comments if we need to, and keeping in compliance with the open meeting law. So we have some internal modes of operation, standard operating procedures basically, that anything that we want to share with the Board of Health goes into Town Hall and then comes out. And I guess one of my questions is really basic to you, is that if it's, my understanding of the open meeting law is that you can't discuss, but you can share information. No? Okay. So if we're sharing information, reports are listed as something that you can share. So if we're sharing information, does it need to come into the town hall and then out? Or can we just copy town hall on it? And if we're not allowed to do that, what's the difference?
So let me approach it a slightly different way. And so the philosophy behind the open meeting law is that the state looked at transparency and efficiency and threw out efficiency and said, we're going with transparency. So it's all about transparency. The open meeting law is a law that allows the public to observe its boards do the business of the town. So, for instance, when you say a report, are you talking about an application? Are you talking about
No.
Give me a for instance.
Regulations, the MAHB guide, reports that are done, data, trying to think what else there's been. And then a little bit different than that would be, like we just were asked for comments on something, and then we didn't have enough time to circulate it and get responses. So if we come up with some, let's say, some comments that were asked for, and we want everyone to see them, are we allowed to disseminate those? No.
No, so
that-
the idea of a report, so the selectmen handle this well in that when they prepare a package, they post it. So one idea for reports, if you want to disseminate it amongst the board, it can go out to you. That's not a violation. If you send comments back, that's where the violation occurs. So kind of one-way traffic is fine. It's when you pick up the return trip, that's where the open meeting law can be violated.
And so can we give comments back to town hall?
So again, it depends. So let's use minutes as an example.
Okay.
Shelley prepares the minutes, sends them out to the board. The board makes comments, sends them back to Shelley. If you stop there, you're okay. If Shelley takes those comments and incorporates them and sends you a second draft, you have now had a round of deliberation outside of an open meeting. So it's kind of like, so again, it's,
Oh, okay.
right? So it's
Yeah.
the transparency. Once you know what someone else might think of those minutes outside of a public meeting, that's where we trip up.
Okay.
So the best advice is post. If you want to share reports with the board, post it on your website. And then the public has access to it, and you can, everyone gets a chance to look at it, and you're fine. The idea of commenting on something. So there's workarounds, and to me the best workaround is to authorize one of your members to handle the situation, because if you want to comment on something, you can say, I move Lisa, take the lead on this one. Lisa can comment on it, and Lisa can send comments to whatever board on behalf of the Board of Health. Okay, so Lisa's acting alone. She's not acting with a quorum of members, so that keeps you shielded from violating the open meeting law. But when there's deliberation where someone knows what someone else thinks about a document, and it's not happening at an open meeting, that's a potential open meeting.
Okay. So if we're asked for comments on something,
Yeah?
the only way to do it, I think, and if we want to make sure that the board approves of what is being submitted,
Mhm.
we have to have a meeting of the board
Right.
between the time when we're asked for comments and when they're due.
To me, the best way to think about it is there is an entity, and it is the Board of Health, right? So individually or outside of an open meeting, you really have no authority. Your authority comes to life at a posted meeting when there's a quorum of you there. And then you have as much authority as any other board in town, more than most. But you need to have, kind of those activators, posted meeting and a quorum. And once you have those two things, you can do your business. But without those two things, you really can't conduct business.
Okay. So because we just went through this and we wanted to improve it, we were thinking that we would require, if we were asked for comments on anything, we're going to require that there's a meeting in between when we get the request and when the comments are due.
Great idea.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, let other people know that if they need your input,
Yeah.
they need to give you time for that input. That's an excellent way to approach this.
So Anthony, those are the types of things that we're looking at to try to just get on the same page with everyone,
Yeah,
just to let you know that.
SAG has some great training that you can sign up for, and it's webinar-based. I recommend that you do that. And if we can facilitate that in any way, happy to help. But it's out there, and they do a great job of explaining it, and I'd strongly recommend it.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony's pretty good at the open meeting law. There's many people in town hall that are pretty good. Shelley, I think, is pretty good at it. It's a start, and if they don't know, they can come to me and ask the question, or you can give me a call through Anthony and ask the
Oh, really?
question.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you, but
Through our office is always the best route, because we may be able to answer some of those questions and not just have the meter keep.
you shouldn't feel like you're on your own out
Right.
here.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify too that you offered a telephone call with me, which I was out of town, but
Yeah.
Right.
we really did want to just start this off with the whole committee here,
That's fine.
rather
That's-
than have just one person, because we're trying to open up communication and increase transparency,
Mhm.
really.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It might be a little sticky in the beginning, but that was the intent,
Yeah.
nothing more than that. And that's also the intent in asking for, the scopes of work, that's all.
Yeah, in our intent in saying, let's have a phone conversation beforehand was to be as prepared as possible for any of the questions that you had. That's why we were looking to
Yeah.
just kind of get an idea of what you're looking for, to be prepared.
Yeah, because I'm trying to be careful too, because the board members really want to know what's
Mhm.
going on. They want one person knowing, and because, as you know, it's hard to get that information around. So
Right.
we're just trying to address that.
Right.
And that's
s-
all.
Right, and so one of the, as the chair, so the chair does have the authority to set the agenda. So it's not unusual for us to have discussions with chairs just about, you guys need to come in and talk to us about X, Y, and Z. And you can talk to me about that, you can pass it through Anthony, but I appreciate and applaud your idea of trying to keep it transparent and involving the whole board, and that's fine, but I don't want that to ever get in the way of, a quick call to me or Anthony to find out.
Yeah, and sometimes
Yeah.
that might be appropriate, but at this point it wasn't.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you.
And I emailed you the link to the open meeting law, so if you can pass it along to the members, I think that would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I think we're pretty up on it. It's just some nuances in there. And like you
You know
said,
what?
it's not made to be efficient, so we're trying to figure out how
Even
to.
periodically, Aaron, I'll just watch it again too,
Yeah.
because sometimes I think it's just a good habit of just
Refresh.
We make sure you're fresh, yeah.
Yeah, like the
so-
3 months on the, and not 3 months, but 30 days, I think, on the minutes. I mean, they were, you're right, it is
Right.
good to refresh, because
Well, so, and the other thing is, it changes. There's new
Yeah.
decisions that come up, and all of a sudden, what was good one week is not good anymore. And honestly, it's not necessarily logical. The open meeting law, the way we do things, is not necessarily logical. So it's sometimes you think if A then B,
Mm.
it's not so, but I can't give you a good reason why it's not so, just because that's the way the decisions came down.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions along those lines, or anything else?
Mr. Chairman, Mrs. Chairman, we do have the building inspector there, if anybody likes to ask him a question. He was kind enough to come tonight.
Oh, thank you.
So but in the case of the comments that we were asked,
Yeah.
we were asked about was it planning board comment?
Yeah.
Make some planning board comments from the Board of Health for the planning board.
Yeah.
There wasn't enough time to post a meeting.
No, there
and-
wasn't, so we're gonna request that. Our requirement is
So
that
that
we
we're
have a
talking
meeting.
about coordination between all the boards,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And that's a discussion you need to have with Jim, because for the 7 years I've been here, Jim has always provided the comments to the planning board for subdivisions, special permits, and everything to the planning board. So if that's something the board's gonna do, you need to discuss that with Jim, because that is something that he, as the professional agent to the Board of Health, should be providing the comments to the board.
We received an email from Diane.
I was on vacation, I'm just
That's-
telling
yeah.
you what the history is.
Okay,
May I ask a question?
sure.
When was Jim given the information? Shelley?
According to what I have, July 9th.
July 9th?
Yeah.
And that was how many days before the planning board meeting?
3.
How many
Why
days
don't we
did we
talk
submit
about,
it?
why don't we talk about that when we get to you?
All right, well,
Because that's another topic.
And no other questions on scope or roles and responsibilities, or?
You'll email that link to us on the open meeting that,
Did you
Yeah.
send it to
And
us?
so actually, I think it's been a couple of years since I've done an open meeting law seminar.
Mhm.
So I'll shop the idea of, taking a Thursday night and coming out for 2 hours, and any board that wants to come. Because when you get into it, it is tricky stuff, and you guys are doing a great job, but it is tricky, and so I want to make sure that I'm providing the proper education and opportunities to have all the boards.
You set it up, I will come.
Yeah, I think everybody would.
That's a great
Because nobody
Yeah.
wants to violate it.
Right.
Peter?
When we went on years ago, they used to give us an open meeting law book,
Mm.
handbook. Did anybody get one of those?
We just got a new binder.
Right here.
Well, you're supposed to get an open meeting law book when you get sworn in by the
Oh,
town
right,
clerk.
yeah, we do do that. Here, I got one. Thanks.
Is that from Diane Crowe?
Yes.
Yeah. But like you said, there's updates, right? I mean, people have problems, and then there's law
Yeah.
that comes through.
And honestly, sometimes it helps to talk. So I do
Yeah.
these seminars fairly frequently, and to me, there's no better teacher than hearing a question and talking it through.
Yeah,
Because when you go, oh yeah, I kind of thought that too, and you can just have a conversation, it sinks in.
I agree. Yeah, thank you.
Mrs. Chairman,
Yeah.
if there's anything else for the attorney and Tony, you can discharge them and say thank you, or if you want them to stay, they can stay.
Any other questions?
I don't think I want Tom to stay.
Well,
I know
they,
that they're on, did we want them to continue? Do we want town council to discuss the regulations, the changes?
oh, yeah, that's a good point. Go over, you probably haven't had a chance to look at them. Yeah,
Okay.
we're not really there yet. That was a good point. I think we were gonna try to get them into shape where we all agreed on it,
Mhm.
and then
Okay.
go there.
All right.
Yeah,
So that you're not getting something that,
Yeah, you're not going to get your money's worth if.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
I do have one other question.
Sure.
As far as the Board of Health and the protection of drinking water,
Mhm.
and thereby water resources that feed into drinking water,
Mhm.
what is the purview or responsibility of the board in that regard?
So I don't know if I can answer your question
Yeah.
off the top like that.
I know water resources and water quality are really complicated law.
Mhm.
There's lots of different, and that's probably why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, so I don't have a good answer for you
Yeah.
right now, but what I can do is go back to the office. We have our water expert, his name is Rebecca Lacey.
Okay.
She works with your Conservation Commission quite a bit, and I'm sure she has something that I can.
Okay, that would be
forward on to
really
you.
helpful.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mrs. Chairman,
Yes.
we do have a commissioner on the board, on the water department. We can invite him, Scott, we can invite him here, and you can ask him all the questions you want.
Yeah. I think it's really good to have council come in once in a while and get
Yeah.
an update on, you
Yeah.
know, what the law says, so
But,
that's why I was.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea too. I don't think I've seen you all in a number of
Never.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Gina was the only one that was on the last time I was here.
So you're gonna get back to us on that?
I will, yeah, I will.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was it. And thank you so much. Do you have any comments or any feedback to us?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
in behalf of the board, we appreciate you coming, and thank you for being here for us. I didn't realize that we can have an election. Look how many people we have here. I'm running for governor.
Again?
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I apologize, we went off the schedule, but we have a hearing for 6 Neshoba Trail. Variance request that was scheduled for 7:10, it's now 7:33. Is anyone here for that?
Did you have that?
In that case, do you want to come up and sit down?
Thank you, Tony.
I'll be back.
All right.
Where's the hot seat?
Oh, it's not hot.
You
It's-
can sit right here.
choose.
We won't charge you any money. Got a pen on you? Yeah, I got 3 of them.
We didn't, okay, so we didn't get any notes from Jim.
Oh, he didn't.
No,
He told me he was going to send you some.
I'm sorry. But we'll,
I almost called him today.
Self-explanatory, it's a simple
It's pretty simple,
variance
yeah.
yeah,
request for
do you want to
distance.
explain it to us?
Have you read the
Yeah.
request?
Usually
Probably
we-
be easier if you asked the question.
Oh, well, usually we just have the engineer just go over it and get their perspective.
It's a request to reduce the offset from I guess what they would call it is a slab foundation, which Jim and I had a conversation about what the definition of a slab foundation was, but regardless of that, from 10 feet to 8'9", which is a 1 foot 3-inch difference. And what it basically says is that the actual slab is above the inlet of the septic tank and the septic tank itself. So there's no like basement or crawl space or anything that any kind of lateral movement of fluids could get into, and that the actual slab it's really a shed basically on the back of a garage is what it is.
What's the project? Is it, you're putting in an addition, a storage shed?
It's a storage shed addition on the back of a garage, so there's really no,
And then you're not replacing the septic?
no.
Oh,
Has
well,
nothing to
okay.
do with any of that, yeah.
That's
All
what
it
I
is
thought,
is-
but I just wanted to make sure.
All it is that the addition itself is inside of that 10-foot.
Okay,
And so I talked to Jim about it, and he indicated to me he had no issues with it at all, but that because of the regulation, it does have to go before the board, and the variance has to be
Okay.
approved. And so he told me he was going to write notes on it saying that, to that effect.
do we have any questions or discussion?
Is there any kind of plumbing in this?
No.
Okay, so it is
It
just,
literally is a storage shed, so it's a one-car garage on the house now, and it's kind of, can we move the lawn stuff and the bicycles and things out of the one-car garage, so maybe the one
the
car
car
can
in
go
the
into the
winter?
one-car garage. It's that, basically.
Yeah.
So, because it's attached to a garage that doesn't move, it needs to have its own foundation so it doesn't move, and because it's a foundation, it brings into play this
Okay.
Did you get the permit from the inspector there?
This,
You can't get the building
I
permit.
can't get it
So-
until this gets done.
Okay.
Yeah, but they have it and they've reviewed it and,
Just to let you know, because he won't when I let you get away with it.
yeah, I know.
He needs
that.
the extra money. you
I've
know.
heard he's tough.
The company's
Yeah.
going broke. I don't think I have any problem. I think it's fine with me. Any comment from the board?
I don't have any issues with it either.
Anybody make a motion? Second? Oh, did you have a comment?
I was just wondering, this is for new construction, this is something that's gonna be built. And Title V says it shall be 10 feet from the foundation, not should or no variance. And I think this has to go to DEP. I'm sorry, my name's Ted Doucette from Wickham Avenue. I think if you approve this variance, it has to go to DEP afterwards. I'm not sure, because you're varying Title V, you're not just varying a local regulation.
For storage shed?
I
You're
haven't,
you're reducing offset between a septic system and a foundation, right?
yeah, we
Septic
haven't,
tank.
Septic tank.
Septic tank and a foundation, which is a setback in Title V that says it
Yeah,
shall be
but
10
it's
feet.
from 10 feet to 8.9, right?
8 feet 9 inches, yeah.
Yeah, it's not close to the pin.
No, it's not. As a
it's
matter
not
of
a new
fact,
septic system either.
It's 30 some odd feet away from the leaching.
Yeah.
Why don't you show him, so he's an engineer. Make him happy.
Joe's here.
No, I heard enough. Title V says it shall be
31
10
and a
feet
half
from the
feet.
foundation. And,
This is a
Is that a
little,
breakout?
this is different than we're used to
What's
because
that?
there's
Is
not
that
a
a
septic
breakout
system
from a
being
field?
built.
It's not a set, this
it
is.
doesn't have to break out, it just
actually-
says a setback.
This is a
Just says
shed.
setback from a septic tank to a foundation shall be 10 feet. And I
But
think
if
it
you-
is varying from.
Have you ever seen something like this? Have you,
You can just put in the motion, just checking with
conditional
Jim
on
if it
Jim
has to
Yeah, we should
checking
check
that?
it, yeah.
I know that
Okay.
DEP.
Thank you
has
for the
changed
comment.
Some of the, it is a Title V variance, so, but there are some variances that do not have to go to DEP anymore, but I don't know off the top of my head what they are, so you can just condition it on.
I've never been before the DEP.
Yeah, since it's not a new system too, I don't, and there's a couple of things in there that might change it. So we can approve it contingent on Jim's review of the applicable regulations.
Title,
Yeah.
yeah, to DEP, yeah.
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
Motion to approve contingent on our health agent's approval.
Yeah, review of the regulations.
The
and-
regs, yeah.
On
for
Jim
compliance.
Gareffi's?
Yeah,
Jim has already reviewed it, so.
but we don't have anything from him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
make sure he gave you.
It'll
But
be- it'll
ultimately,
need to be a
what he
sign
told
off.
me is ultimately it's the decision of the Board of Health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're saying we approve it pending his review of pertinent regulations, given Mr. Doucette's comments, to make sure that we are in compliance.
Okay,
So he'll have to do that, and then it should go through. Does anybody want to second
and I
that?
second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving right along. 121 Hartwell Avenue, request for deed restriction. Randy Kennard. Sorry to keep you waiting. You were scheduled for 7:15, and it is now 7:40. Again, we apologize, we did not get the comments yet from the health agent, but we'd like to listen to what you got to say and see.
Well, what I have here is a signed document for the restrictive deed to complete a building application that we have for a finished basement. So we were advised from Jim to come here, and have a deed restriction in hand, and I have that signed, notarized, and ready to go to the registry of deeds to prove, we're not,
Oh, I
we're
see.
not building any we're not building any bedrooms or kitchens or
This is-
plumbing or anything.
This is the 3 rooms in the basement?
This one here.
No, I think that's not 121, or maybe it is, yes, it
Yeah.
is, I'm
This
sorry.
one here.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You're on the second page, I was looking at for the first.
So
Look at it.
Jim's
Yeah.
comments on the building permit are on that first page, and
Right.
that's
Right.
essentially, it's just that they exceed the room count and they require a deed restriction
Right.
in order for approval for the building permit,
Correct.
so it can be,
So it's currently a 4-bedroom home, and they're going to restrict it to that 4-bedroom, okay?
You just
until
want to finish the basement.
We just want to finish the basement, that's all we're trying to do.
Yeah. We
There's
can
no-
put a deed restriction.
I have it here.
Okay, you got it.
It's
Make
just
sure-
ready for signature, actually.
Make sure we can get a copy of that.
Well, this is the actual original,
Okay,
and this has got to go, it's got to be signed here.
okay.
So
Then you make
we-
a copy. Give
I'll
it-
make a copy and give it back,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there is no adding any bedroom, it's just trying to finish the basement. And will be a deed restriction on it.
We've
Yes.
had similar requests come through, and we're letting them, we've been approving them, but we have been asking for certain things, and I just want to be sure that we're consistent. I know we had one that we had to take the heating out.
Yeah, that was Roger's project, about the heat,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there gonna be heat in this?
So Jim's comments said
Well,
adding
we are
3
making
rooms.
conditioned space down there, yeah. I mean, it's going to be a finished basement, so.
I'm
And we
I'm
have
not-
air to air, we have air exchanging, we have all the required building permitted needs fulfilled.
How old is your house?
It was built in 2015, I believe.
So all Title V compliant.
Yes, it's all, it's right there.
Would you be able to,
He's not making
be able to
extra
upgrade to a
bedrooms, so
5-bedroom?
it will be a
Give the
deed
land.
You
restriction.
can, according to
That's a
this
good
document, you can't do anything without applying for that.
Okay, so
And
he's gonna
having
go for
that
4
upgraded.
bedroom,
If
the
you
only thing
upgrade it to
he's adding on a
5-bedroom,
basement, 3
right,
small
then this
room.
becomes null and
Okay,
void.
so I think it's a-
The deed
With,
restriction
with, as long as you've done it, you know,
by the book.
by the board, by the approved. But there's no seeking that. This is to ensure that in the event of a new purchase, they're not believe that they're gonna have a 5-bedroom all of a sudden.
Right.
So there's no discrepancies here.
I'm not clear on his notes here. I tend to feel like we should have him look at it, and also for consistency with the other decisions we've made on
Yeah,
it.
because his note says adding 3 rooms in a basement is not allowed, would need to upgrade to
Correct,
5 bedrooms.
unless I come up with this, unless there's a deed restriction saying that regardless.
The deed
owner's
restriction is gonna say it's a-
responsible not to, you can't do it.
You can't do anything else.
The
Oh,
deed
wait,
restriction is gonna say it's a 4-bedroom house.
Correct.
Right, and we have done that, but like I said, we want to be consistent, and I just want to make sure that we're asking for the same things from you that we have for other applicants.
Well, I don't know what else there would be besides
Well-
restricted.
Oh, is this open? Are there any?
It's all open, there's actually, I think we got one closet in there with sliding barn door.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for-
yeah.
But the rest of it's cased openings, there's no bathrooms, there's no kitchen, we're not doing any plumbing, other than like maybe moving a plumbing pipe out of the way so when we further ceiling down, that it's not in the way, other than, no,
Well,
nothing
you've got
else.
a foyer, and then,
There's no, well, it's not really a foyer, it's just, you come down the stairs.
yeah, which is exactly,
I call it a foyer for description, so you
Yeah.
know where when I'm talking to you and I say foyer, you know what I'm talking about. That's why it's there. It's just for description.
okay, but it's on the plan too.
Yeah, but you would know what I couldn't refer to anything if I didn't call it something.
Yeah.
So,
Shelley, did you talk to Jim at all about this?
I did. It was, I thought he was gonna comment on it. It
Yeah.
was, basically just a building permit application that came in that he can't sign because it exceeds the room
Yeah.
count. He usually, in his comments, will explain the number of rooms. What is the existing number of rooms in the current house?
8 rooms.
8?
4 bedrooms.
that's 4 bedrooms.
But total rooms, living space.
I don't have the room count. offhand.
So his comments are, saying it's an additional 3 rooms. Is that right?
Well, I thought the red flag was that to basically stop it from adding any additional
Well,
bedrooms.
it is, but under Title V, with a 4-bedroom system, you're allowed to have 9 rooms of living space, and so that's why I was asking what the total number of rooms was, because if it's
You take the
9 and you're
total
adding
number.
3, then that's 12, which is far in excess of a
The
4-bedroom
basement is-
system.
If it's open, what she tried to tell you,
I
if
see.
the basement is open, it's not considered any extra room.
Right.
Sometimes when you edit, you claim it like a room, let's say for a pool, an extra room for the TV, an extra room for relaxing. So according to our regulation, it considered extra room.
Right.
So it comes from 8 to 3 or 11.
Sure.
If you leave the basement open
Right.
and without subdividing, you can do that. And then you have no problem. That's it. Very easy.
All they can do is approach Jim and ask him about that and see what he says and
Anybody?
see how we can come to some
Gotta
type
wait.
of terms.
Go ahead, yeah.
I built the house that has 8 rooms.
You built that house, so 8 rooms.
So would this be considered the 9th room? Basement?
Your plans say you're adding 3 rooms.
You open up the
Yeah.
basement without
The
subdividing.
proposal said it's adding 3 rooms.
Look better.
That's true.
There will be no problem. The inspector will give you no
Yes,
problem.
yeah.
So, do we have anybody discussion?
I mean, if Roger says it's 8 rooms, you could make that basement just stay totally open as one room.
Right.
And that, you could deed restrict it as being just the one room and maintaining that 4-bedroom restriction.
So I think we should get Jim to, this is just my thought, you guys,
No, no.
does anybody have anything to
But you
comment?
Go ahead.
What would it take,
Kevin.
you might be able to answer this, what would it take to just put another leach line, make it a 5-bedroom system?
Because it makes it new construction and he has to do a reserve area
You
too.
do the whole thing.
You can't do it.
Can you have finished storage area?
This is,
It's going to be hard for you, but I think the only solution would be just to make the basement one big room. Thank you for telling us.
when, one of the things that, when I was talking to Jim about it, he said there was just one particular wall that he had a problem with, and that's probably what led us here. And so I would assume that if he said eliminate that wall, because the other ones are clearly, everything else is clearly open,
Okay.
you know, that it should be acceptable at that point.
So since we're hearing a lot about what Jim said, but we don't have it in writing it.
I hear you.
I would feel better if we waited, got Jim's input, and then
Would you rather
took it
wait?
under advisement.
Well, we can wait. I was wondering, would you allow Jim the authority, if he approved that his method?
Just one, you said just one wall, right?
Well, yeah, he said, he pointed out a single wall in this, I could
Is it
point it out
this?
to you. It's just, where are we? So I don't have my glasses on, so I'm gonna put it, it's right here. So he said if this wall wasn't there, would that be okay?
Yeah.
I said, well, let me
you
approach the
read it?
board and see first what's,
Yeah,
you
can you
know, how,
eliminate that wall?
Yeah, sure we can.
Okay, so we
You
had,
can
a-
eliminate without any problem structure.
There's no structural things happening here, zero.
do you have a comment?
Yes, question, if there's a large cased opening in between the spaces, is that still considered one room? At what point does it go from one room to 2 rooms if there's no doors?
there's a wall.
and it's a cased opening?
There was no, everything
No,
is,
this is a-
To answer his question.
Just generally speaking.
Yeah,
nothing
no,
to do
I
with
see what
this.
you mean, yeah.
Generally speaking.
How you define a room.
If I have a basement and I put a wall down the middle, but I've got a large cased opening, is that one room?
Indirectly, could be one room, but but you speak it to the building inspector, he will say, well, now it's considered 2 room. Because you subdivide, even though you have an opening.
right.
Because a lot of, there's a lot of rooms that function as one, but just have, a cased opening.
Yeah, he really only pointed out that one to be an issue. He said
Because
that-
these are cased
he said,
openings
yeah, but
here,
this,
correct?
you gotta understand, these are lally columns.
Yeah.
These are just low bookcases, so it's all open.
Oh, I see.
And on this guy's, the only wall that's really here is, again, it's lally columns.
Uh-huh.
It's just the 2 large cased openings, so it's really a flow-through wall. So it's not even a wall, per se. So this is the only wall here that he had mentioned. He says, and I think he was hinting, he says, if you get rid of this wall, I think we're all set.
Yeah, you
So-
can give you a suggestion, because
Exactly.
if there was a need to have that wall.
It's not a need,
No,
no.
I say, if
Okay.
there was a need,
Right.
that would be a different story.
No, it's all cosmetic, it's all like for, make it nice, you know, aesthetics.
If you can eliminate it, then you have no
We can do
problem.
that, we can do that.
You can do that. I'll leave it up to the board.
We have-
You want them to come back?
Yeah, we have two options. One is we can wait for Jim to give us feedback and have you come back. The other option is to approve pending Jim's review. I tend to feel on this one that Jim's going to want us to approve it.
I think so.
Um,
I think if you restricted that it can be no more than 10 rooms, because
Right.
he would be allowed the 9 rooms, and if the house as it is now is 8 rooms,
Mhm.
he's allowed 9 under Title V. One additional room would be 10, and if you deed restrict it at that 10th room, I think Jim's comments sort of imply that that plan shows 3 rooms being created, and if he can keep it to 2,
Right.
so that would be the 10-room, but deed restricted as the 4 bedrooms.
But we're talking about bringing it down to one room.
Yeah, if he can bring the wall
So he
down.
can have 9 rooms without him being here,
Yeah,
under Title V.
Right.
so that's,
If there's 8 rooms in the house, and
Plus one
Jim's
bedroom.
comments are implying that this plan shows 3 rooms, then he's at that point 2 rooms over. If he can bring it down 1 room to a total of 10 and deed restrict it, those are the plans that come before this board. Jim could sign it if it was 9 rooms.
Okay. You take that wall down, you have no problem.
Okay.
What do you think about board?
Motion to approve.
Sounds good.
If he takes the wall down.
As-
Jim agrees.
well, he doesn't have to come here if he takes the
Yeah.
wall down.
If he was bring something to the administrator, we all set with the deed restriction. 1 big room,
Okay, I'll have to have this modified again
right?
now,
Yeah, that's okay.
because it'll be
Yeah.
changed.
So you can get the okay now. But and Jimmy will have an answer to the administrator.
I think if you make a motion saying you're restricting it to a 10-room total, 4-bedroom deed restriction required to be.
But we're talking about not going to 10, we're talking
We
about.
thought
going
about go
at
to
9.
9, he doesn't need to come here. 9 is
No, I know,
allowable
that's-
under Title V, and Jim can sign it, and he doesn't need to
That-
be here.
I
He's
know.
here
That's my point.
because it exceeds
But
the
because he
9.
has that wall, that's why he's here. Okay? So you take that wall down, you got no problem.
Okay.
All right? Make a motion?
Well, we don't have a motion because he doesn't have to get our approval.
Well, the question
If
is,
he's,
he doesn't
if
need
you're
an
taking the
approval.
wall down, you're just gonna make
If
one
you
room.
only go to 1.
Well, I just want to make sure that what he's considering, everything. I just want to make sure he's fine with it. So I would
Right.
just say if we can leave it up to Jim's
Yeah.
authority,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
Just to be clear, if he takes the wall down, he's going to have 10 rooms.
No, 9.
9.
Take
He
the wall
doesn't have
down
to be
9.
here. So 8.
One big room on the
9.
side.
He's only, Jim was, to me, was only concerned with that 1 wall. That's what he pointed out, so.
So if Jim was only concerned with 1 wall,
Take the wall down.
where's the 3rd room that he was talking about?
No, that would have been
So-
different.
It would have been 1, 2,
3.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
all right.
Right?
It's not clear on the.
But
hard to
I'll make a
see.
suggestion that we let you go talk to Jim. If he wants you to take that wall down,
Mhm.
then you don't have to come back to us. If he doesn't, then you can come back to us and we'll get this done.
Okay?
Okay.
And he can send his comments in.
Right.
So
that
I
we
need
have-
the board to say whether they agree with
Modify
that
the
or not.
document, okay?
I agree with that.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
All right.
What is the motion?
You need a motion for that?
I don't even know if we need a motion. I guess we
No.
do to close the hearing, but
Yeah. I don't think we need a motion.
he does not have to come here if it's a 9-bedroom. So you're going to talk to Jim. You're either going to take the wall down, or you're going to come back here. We're going to have Jim's notes, and then we'll vote on it.
Okay.
So is that a continuance, or how does that work?
I don't think he needs a
We
continuance.
close the meeting and open it again? Then you don't
It'll
have
have to be on the next agenda.
Put it on the next
The way
agenda.
to do it is if you're okay
You
with
do your part.
10 rooms.
This is actually just a discussion too, this wasn't
Otherwise,
a
we send
hearing.
the
No, it's a
National
hearing.
Guard.
He wanted
So-
us to approve it.
I'm just going to go see Jim after
It says
this.
discussion.
Yeah,
Oh, it wasn't a hearing?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good point. Okay, next on the agenda, again, sorry for your wait.
121.
At 7:20, discussion, King Street Senior Residential Development. Ducharme and Dillis, I think, requested to come in and talk to us.
It's me.
Okay, great.
Oh,
Hi.
that's King Street?
Yes, sir.
Did you sign in?
I did not.
They're both King Street
Senior
and
residential
Jones.
development. Wow,
They're both,
big words, huh?
Yes, sir.
How many?
We didn't make them up, but
How many?
how many
Items.
units? We are currently proposing 26.
26.
If you're ready,
It was
we'll-
31 before, wasn't it?
Different.
Different one?
Jennifer
Maybe
Platt
just-
with Anderson Krieger here on behalf of Eminent Realty
Yeah.
with
Jennifer Platt,
Platt, P-L-A-T-T.
and you're an attorney?
Yes, I am.
The board is open.
And
Can
I'm
you open up that, and see us this?
Greg Roy.
Greg
The
Roy?
stamps, we gotta see the stamp there.
So we have a senior residential development that's in front of the planning board. We're still in our design stages, and we're just coming in front of this board, basically because we'd received comments back at our last planning board hearing and wanted to have a chance to talk briefly with the board as we're moving forward in our design. And I know your regulations or your proposed regulations are still
I wanna see.
in flux or being worked on, and I
See
see
your
that they're on
stamp.
the agenda for a little bit later this evening. The one thing I just wanted to point out for our plan, which is consistent with the senior residential bylaws, is that it is not age-restricted. It does not need to be. It needs to be accessible, and it is designed for a senior population. It has zero clearance entrance at one of the entranceways to the property. It has the master bedroom, kitchen, master bath, all on the first floor. So it's designed to be accessible to a elderly community. But under the senior residential district bylaws, it does not have to be deed restricted. And our septic design is not limited to a elderly or a 55 and over community. So we are designing this to have 110 gallons per day flow per bedroom. They're each 2-bedroom units, but we'll have the full 220 per unit. And so it won't be deed restricted to elderly housing, and it won't be limited to 150 gallons per day flow. So I just want to make sure that the board is aware of how the senior residential development bylaws are written and how we're planning our development, so we're consistent.
You have anything affordable?
Yes, we are going to have, the requirements under the bylaws are 10%, so we will have 10% affordable.
So we really just wanted to hear, we're here for a few reasons. One is, I think, just out of courtesy to your board, because you obviously took some interest in the project.
Question number one, you have another one with a stamp? No stamp. Next time you come, this has to have a stamp.
It's preliminary, Gino.
I
So
know,
they're
I
not
know,
gonna
I
stamp
know.
it
I'm
at
just
this
asking.
point.
Just tell him, he's a young man. He's a young man, and he's got to listen to the elder.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I like that, yes, sir.
Don't ever stamp a preliminary, that's my,
So the planning board has a full set of stamp drawings. Okay, so we're here for a couple reasons. One is, as a courtesy to your board, because you obviously took an interest in the project, so we really are just interested in having I guess, keeping the discussion open, since we have a memo from your board. And I guess secondly would be to talk through some of those issues, perhaps as they relate to your future plans for regulation changes, to the extent that you're moving those along. I mean, that's sort of a question in my mind, is where are you in that process? What's the projected timeline for that? What have you discussed so far, those kind of questions?
You should get some the
Yeah.
new regulation. We're not done yet completely.
Yeah.
one thing is that as you've been sitting here, so you know that we've had a problem with having a sufficient lead time to respond. And to tell you the truth, we're not asked to respond that often. So, and we're going to remedy that. But we weren't given sufficient lead time to respond to this, so that we wanted to make you aware of some of the concerns, but they weren't totally reviewed by the board. We did send them around to everyone to take a look, but we're requesting we have a meeting in between. So we wanted to raise up some of these issues, but I just wanted to be clear that those weren't discussed in an open meeting and voted on.
And that's fine, and actually, we appreciate all the input, particularly as early in the process as possible, because we want to incorporate everything we can into our design, so when we're here formally with final plans, neither side is getting surprised.
Yeah, are you going to be asking for any variances in building this for Title V?
No, no Title V. We're, a
How about
couple of
local
things with
regulations?
local, the only issue that we have is we are in the Aquifer District. So you have regulations regarding flow within the Aquifer District. We are proposing nitrogen reduction on this, so let me just back up. The site is not within a Zone 2 or other nitrogen-sensitive area as defined by Title V. So it is not subject to the nitrogen loading limitations under Title V. So I guess the answer to your question, which was two parts, is from a Title V standpoint, what we're proposing here meets the regulations of Title V. Your regulation, I can't remember the number, forgive me, but pursuant to the Aquifer District, we are in the Aquifer Overlay District, and there's a regulation limiting the flow, which we would need some relief from. So we are proposing nitrogen reduction technology, IA technology system to mitigate that concern. We have not heard formally back from the Water Department on this, but I did have a conversation with Corey. His name is escaping me, the environmental analyst. His last name is escaping me.
Godfrey.
Thank you, Godfrey. Earlier today, and he had briefly gone through the plans. I do expect to hear more formally from him in the future, but he was encouraged by the use of the nitrogen reduction system. He was happy to see that, and he was also especially happy to see, given that we're in the Aquifer District, that we are proposing 100% of infiltration of the stormwater. So all of the stormwater is collected, treated pursuant to the stormwater standards, which I know isn't necessarily always under your purview, but we're putting all the runoff back into the ground after it
Are you doing
falls, so.
impervious pavement?
We're not doing impervious pavement, but we're collecting it all through a catch basin system and then putting it back using underground infiltration chambers, like those plastic
Are
type.
you guys following the LID guidelines? We have a manual.
Yeah, to the maximum extent possible. I mean, really, this is a unique site because there is no runoff off the site. It's kind of a little bit of a depression down there, so there's no. Even if we did nothing, there'd be no runoff. It ends up on our site. So it's actually kind of a challenging problem from an engineering standpoint because you have to mitigate. There's no other place for it to go. So infiltration of the runoff is one of the sort of fundamental principles of LID. So we're proposing that whatever falls on our site goes into the ground on our site. So
Where is your site? What's the address on King Street?
it's near 89, is that the
8990.
It's right next to the high school, actually. Right behind the minor court.
Behind the high school and the
Behind
minor
the minor
court.
court.
Is Mill Road,
Oh, okay.
King Street. It's over there.
Like behind, it's where Weber's Florist used to be,
Right.
behind it.
Behind Weber's. That's how I know it. So.
Would you tell the board that I noticed here that you have a big leach field?
Is it
Yes,
King
sir.
Street?
You're not going to have each individual septic system in those houses. You're going to have only one area.
Correct.
Am I correct? Would you explain it to the board because they knew?
Sure.
Because I just happened to notice that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
So,
they can understand the situation.
absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
This development is proposed as a condominium, so we are not proposing a subdivision, which would create right-of-way and individual lots. So all of these units will be under one sort of legal umbrella on one piece of property. So we're proposing a community system to service all of those.
Like a miniature sewage system.
Yeah, there'll be a sewer system a collection system that goes to a centralized.
And individually,
system.
they will supply for the funding, they pay for it. Am I correct?
There'll be a homeowners association or a
Good.
condominium association that will be.
This is good, so they know.
Right, yeah. But it is not a shared system per se. A
Right.
shared system would be individual lots
Right.
that would share a facility, and then you have to create a new legal entity. That's
Right,
sort of
right.
how that triggers it.
We have something like that, like a one home, two home, sharing the same system.
Right, correct. So we don't
This is
have that.
different.
This is
I like that.
So that's our, that's sort of the nuts and bolts. Are there any other questions about that? We certainly need to come before you with more definitive plans, we know that. We're we're trying to resolve, we're trying to get through the special permitting process with the planning board, but we'll certainly be back to see you.
I like the way you design it. Looks very appropriate.
Thank you.
I have a question. Why are you calling it a senior residential development if there's no age restrictions?
That is the bylaws that we fall under in the town. And under the town bylaws, under the senior residential district bylaws, it specifies that they do not need to be age restricted. They have to have design elements which make it more accessible to an aging population, which are all incorporated into our designs. But the units themselves do not have to be age restricted.
Good. I like that.
I don't understand that either. I mean, you're putting restrictions in that are ADA required, not necessarily for senior living. It's an ADA requirement. It's not because of
so we
age.
comply with the bylaws.
Mm.
They're new as of November of last year, so we're one of the first projects going through the planning board under the new bylaws.
So they're planning board bylaws?
Correct.
Well, they're town bylaws, zoning, they're zoning bylaws.
The special permit it would be issued by the planning board.
It was changed in November.
Right.
Correct.
You have to explain it because sometimes
Well, and they are new, so
Yeah, but I don't
we're going through them, the planning board's
Right.
going through them, some of our colleague developers in town are going through the process as well.
Well, thank you for coming, I appreciate it. I think the system looks very good. I just hope everything works well for you guys and come back with a stamp.
Yes, sir.
Aquifer Water Resources District has a couple of requirements. One is analysis by a qualified engineer experienced in groundwater evaluation and geohydrology, evaluate proposed use and probable effects on surface water and groundwater quality. You were talking about LID and surface water, but that goes into the groundwater.
Where is the system?
Not, sounds like a recharge area. Also, monitoring required, and which groundwater wells and monitoring, and that needs to be reviewed by the Board of Health.
Okay, we'll take that into.
So if you look through the Aquifer and Water Resources District requirements, which I'm sure you've done,
Yep, absolutely.
that those are
Yep.
in there. I did
Yep.
see you, you responded to the geohydrology, but your response was limited to surface water, to
Okay.
stormwater, which in my mind isn't sufficient, especially given that they're talking about monitoring for groundwater too.
And the 10%, what's the price of a home on the 10%?
Don't think we have those numbers yet. It's going to depend a little bit on how,
Later, okay.
so,
And so it,
unless you
They're
have
in
that
the mid-180s.
for the affordables.
That's something. I haven't heard that in 20 years.
187? Yeah, 187.
The 10%.
Yes, sir.
You think you?
Yeah,
So it-
we're concerned with
Anything else?
environmental impact and.
Yeah. Right, yourselves.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're looking for some relief under the flow restriction.
Yes.
So I would sharpen your pencil on that.
Yep. Those are good comments, though. We'll,
That's very much, it's appreciated. We very much appreciate your input and help us focus on what we need to do next to
No problem.
move the plans forward.
Yeah, I think on the, and please jump in, because I'm not the only person here, but I think on the comments, we wanted to elevate some issues that needed to be elevated. And so that was the intent of those comments.
Terrific.
And I think that's what you were looking for, some feedback, so you got it.
yeah, no, it's good.
Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you going to sit here again for the next one?
Oh, you're
I'm
Because you-
done.
Stand up.
Oh, you're done?
Stand up and sit back down.
Okay,
So, we are moving on.
closing the
You're
meeting.
staying though, aren't you?
I'm staying.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing.
So we're moving down, scheduled for 7:30, it's now
Yeah.
8:10, again, apologies. Jones Meadows Senior Residential Development, we're having a discussion, again, Ducharme and Dillis.
Thank you.
And then we
Yeah.
have Mr. Kennard joining us.
Thank you.
Roger Kennard, the applicant, and Steve is
son,
here
Steve.
too. Again, my name is Greg Roy with Ducharme and Dillis. Thank you for.
Just pull up a chair, Steve. You okay?
You said.
Thank you.
This one's stamped.
Oh, it is, it's your stamp.
Ah, you got me this time, huh? The quiet one.
Does that mean that this isn't a
It's
first draft?
preliminary.
Preliminary, but it's stamped. This is
Oh,
actually.
it's a utilities
yeah.
plan.
So, just a brief introduction to the project. Again, we thank you for giving us the opportunity to come tonight to talk about this informally with the board. And again, the same thing as I just said, we sort of, purpose is twofold, is to sort of extend to you a courtesy, because obviously there's some interest in this, as evidence from your willingness to comment to the planning board, but also just to give you an overview of the project and to continue that discussion, so we appreciate it. It's a Jones Meadow, the Jones Meadow project is on approximately 12 acres, 12 and some change acres. Again, is being proposed through the Senior Residential Development Bylaw of the town. In this case, we're proposing a subdivision, so we filed both a preliminary subdivision with the planning board and a special permit application for the, under the Senior Residential Development Bylaw. So in this case, from a Board of Health standpoint, we are proposing individual septic systems on all of the lots.
How many units?
There are 30 units, excuse me, I'm sorry for that oversight. And we are so individual systems, again, like the other one we just discussed, and in keeping with the bylaw, and in keeping with really the feedback we got from the planning board relative to the age restriction issue. We have designed these at 220 gallons per day, so that it could accommodate non-age restricted folks. So so all of the systems that we are depicting on this plan would accommodate 220 gallons per day per bedroom. Again, this is not in a Zone 2. It's also not in the Aquifer District, but in the Water Resources Protection District, so slightly different from the other one. We did actually receive, I don't know if you've gotten a copy of it, but we actually did get some formal correspondence from the Water Department on this. You did get it, okay. So we just got that ourselves a few days ago. So, you know, that could be pertinent to the discussion as well. But we wanted to come before you and continue the dialogue, I guess, so.
Are those, do you have reserve areas?
We do. These are sort of just generic boxes, but they would be both prime. So these are fully compliant, new construction systems. No variances requested.
And this is right on the edge of Spec Pond, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How is it not, I know it's not a question for you, it's just amazing to me that it's not in our protection
How far
area.
away from the pond?
It's,
Should have brought the, yeah, it's.
At least a couple of hundred feet.
It's on the other side of Crick.
yeah, so we do want to open it up.
Yeah.
Does the board have any questions before we open up the discussion?
No, go
Because I
ahead,
know there's
open it.
people who want to speak.
Yeah, I mean,
Couple hundred feet,
Just-
that's good.
want to protect the environment and make sure it's done the right way.
Yeah, we have to meet Title V regs, so.
And these are also not 55 and over, this is a, this is a subdivision?
Yeah, so you're gonna own your individual lot. We're gonna have the road accepted by the town. And all this is for keeping our association fees down. The most we're gonna have for an association fee would only be to maintain your driveways and cut your lawn. So there'll be no road maintenance or anything like that.
So they're kind of like condos? Considered condos or
No, that association will just be on the deed and
homeowners association?
So you're not looking for any variances to local regulations at this point? Okay.
you know, and with the way things are going out there, I mean, some, people are having their kids at 40. You could be 55 and have a 17-year-old.
You got any affordable?
Yes.
Yes.
How much they go for?
187.
Oh, that's the same one?
Same, yeah, we have to comply.
You're doing more than 10% too, right?
We'll be doing more than 10%.
Wow.
How many bedrooms are there?
2. They're restricted to 2.
That is a limitation of the SRD bylaw. It has to be limited to 2 bedrooms. That is one of the requirements.
Any heat in the foyer in the basement?
Uh,
I'm kidding.
Maybe when I finish it off.
Being so close to spec bond, obviously there's concerns.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to make sure we're covered there.
200 feet is good.
So just a question for the future, because we've seen it with Durkee, how they want to finish the basements, because this is a subdivision and it's deed restricted to 2 bedrooms, is there going to be a problem with, can the future residents come in and ask for,
I think it'd be a
variances to
situation like
finish the
what you just
basements, or-
heard. I mean, they'd have to deed restrict. I don't know, Roland, what do you think?
Well,
No?
know what?
No, you can't, I mean, unless you want to give it away.
Mhm.
There'll be deed restrictions on each one, and that's it.
Mhm.
Can't increase it.
Yeah.
Does anyone here in the public want to add anything or comment?
Rob Hartz is the president of the Spectrum Pond Association.
Rob.
He couldn't be here tonight,
Oh.
so he asked me to come in instead. My name is Leon Weaver. I'm past president of the Spectrum Pond Association.
Oh, thank you for coming.
And also a member of the Littleton Clean Lakes Committee. Anyway, I prepared a presentation, but I now understand that it may not be schedulable. It's like a 10-minute presentation on our concerns, most of which have been covered by the applicants.
Well, you
You have to put
you've
an
showed
agenda.
up and it's 10 minutes. I think we can make time for you.
I
if-
mailed it to Michelle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
You'd want to hear
So
what they
are
have
you
to say, I
satisfied
assume.
with the plan as it is now?
I looked at it online. Really, my presentation is more a collection of concerns that we've had in terms of, oh, good, there it is right there. Yeah. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Yeah, Spectrum Pond Association, and also in conjunction with the Littleton Clean Lakes Committee, has been concerned about a number of different things in and around the pond. We're concerned about water quality as well as water quantity. We have an invasive species plant problem, and of course, we're always concerned about stormwater runoff. Can you?
Is that a PowerPoint?
It is a PowerPoint, yeah.
If you go under, they
Just
should
do the
do
PowerPoint
slideshow.
display, right.
Do slideshow.
Okay. Spectrum Pond Association concerns. Water quality or quantity, obviously, and I'll explain that in the next 5 or 6 slides. Water quality. We also have a non-native invasive species problem that we're dealing with. And, of course, stormwater runoff. Next slide, please. We are in a situation in Littleton where we have 2 aquifers today that are severely challenged. They're rated groundwater category 5, which is the worst category related to the SDP. Next slide, please. And that's just a blow up that says that we're in trouble. We are GWC 5. Actually, we probably should be GWC 7. We're in so much trouble.
And what does that mean?
What it really means is, in fact, the next slide probably tells you what a 5 is. And basically, we take a look at the unimpacted flow of water in the August timeframe. And you want to make sure that, and so this is a sort of a drought situation usually in August, you want to make sure that you're not taking so much water out of the groundwater that you're sacrificing the rest of the ecosystem, in fact. You need to be able to send water downstream, for instance, so that the fish are happy, and the ecosystem downstream is happy. If you pump out too much water, especially during this dry period in August, you're in trouble. Next slide, please. And this is just some orienteering showing you where Spectacle Pond is. Next, please. And you just sort of click through it. Orientation, there's Route 495. In the far north is the Merrimack. Click, click, click. Forge Pond, Spectacle Pond, 4 clicks. Mill Pond, and these are all part of the Stony Brook watershed, sub-watershed that feeds into the Merrimack. A few more clicks, and we'll just blow through this. I don't want to waste your time. Keep going, please, okay? Forward, 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 forward. Okay, now there's the, Spectacle Pond is actually part of the Venice Brook sub-watershed that feeds into the Stony Brook, eventually feeds into Forge Pond. And then there's the Beaver Brook watershed that also feeds into Forge Pond. The outlet of Forge Pond, next click, is actually the start of the Stony Brook. Next. A few other minor inputs to those watersheds. Next. Okay, now here's the situation with, again, water quantity. We actually have 2 active aquifers today, the 13055 and the 54. We're developing the 12047. Why is that important? Quantity-wise, both of the existing aquifers are challenged, severely challenged, GWC5 in fact. We're developing Cobb's Pond to take off the heat from the other 2 aquifers. We still may be in trouble. And you can see that there's a lot of entities that have pipes stuck into the groundwater and are taking water out. Some of them are in air. Some of the recipients of that water in those aquifers are in air. Some are in Westford. Okay, keep going. So we actually, even though we're rated GWC5, a lot of that rating comes from a simulation that Mass DEP has done in conjunction with USGS. They don't have any critical hard data for the water flow out of these Spectacle Pond or Mill Pond, the various ponds. But they've simulated it, and basically Mass DEP are the guys that tell, that authorize Littleton Water Department to pump a certain amount out of the groundwater for their particular, their wells. And they have some restrictions on us. Anyway, what we decided was that, yes, we have a quantity problem. Way back when in the 1900s, we probably were GWC1. We had lots of fish and we weren't taking so much water out of the groundwater. And then the next click, we're taking a lot more water out these days. In fact, again, we're severely challenged, and it's reduced the abundance of the fish, not only the number of species, but the abundance of those species. So what we're trying to do is get to some 20/20 improvement in this scenario. More species, more abundance of those species. And the critical thing is you got to send more water downstream, long story short. If you're not sending water downstream, and again in August we're challenged, you're in trouble. So what we did is we said, well, we really need to get some hard data on stream flow. We buddied up with Geosyntec, Littleton Water Department, Spectacle Pond Association, the Westford Water Department, and we have a project that monitors stream flow. And from this stream flow, what we can do is, with clever releases of one impoundment, like Spectacle Pond could be an impoundment, or Mill Pond could be an impoundment, we can figure out how to send a little bit more water downstream during the critical periods. And then you can see all the points. And here's our online stream flow monitoring project. Again, Geosyntec, Littleton Water Department, Spectacle Pond Association of Westford. You can go online and actually take a look at the stream flow. Today we have 5 points that you can look at. We may expand that out into the future. Next, please. Okay, and what you get is you just get these graphs that you can look at. I found this is pretty valuable because the Spectacle Pond outlet, we actually have an upstream and downstream monitor, and I can now tell when the beaver are blocking or creating their own little dam. Yeah, because if I send no water downstream, and I should be, that means that the beaver are probably blocking something or a log got in the way. Next, please. And here's a snapshot of the impervious area that we have to deal with in Littleton and surrounds. Next, please. So we have a water quality issue too, but mostly it's not nitrogen or phosphorus or any sedimentation or turbidity issue. In Spectacle Pond, it's predominantly dissolved oxygen. And we have launched off on a project with Corey Godfrey and the Littleton Water Department. It's a several-year project now to measure a number of different attributes of the water quality. So we're working on that. Mass DEP says that we have problems we're validating that, yea, verily, we do believe that we have the problems that they say we have. And now the next step is to eventually figure out how to resolve that, if it is resolvable. Dissolved oxygen is particularly difficult to fix. Next, please. So there's kind of a snapshot of the fishies, like a couple of milligrams per liter dissolved oxygen or better. Actually 5 for some species is the requirement. In some cases, we've been much below that, unfortunately. And this oxygen cycle, oxygen cycle in the water is kind of a funny thing. During the day, plants photosynthesize and actually put oxygen into the water, which is goodness. But at night, they take it back out. So you have this up and down series. So now to zero in on the development, the proposed development. On the far left-hand side, you see Spectacle Pond, and there's the well, the blue dot, and then a couple clicks. And then that's actually Zone 3. The dotted area is Zone 2, is the Zone 2 recharge area. The rectangle is the Zone 3 area, surrounding Zone 2 effectively. Next, please. So what I blew up is there's Cricket Lane, and this is to the far south, southern section of Spectacle Pond. Cricket Lane, and then the Jones Field development, which is that rectangle right there. So we are in fact in Zone 3, not in Zone 2, but we're kind of close to Zone 2. But definitely in Zone 3. Yes, sir?
So you are concerned about this project?
Yeah, the summary is, we're in a sensitive area, need to be concerned about recharge and to make sure that that is going to happen properly. Sounds like it is. You're doing.
Would you be satisfied if they have something that the runoff will go on the lake from the rain, stuff like that? Will you be happy?
I don't want it to go into the lake. I want it
Okay, you don't
recharged.
want nothing to the lake?
Nothing.
Okay, so
Nothing.
we will make sure that nothing
In
will
fact,
go.
that nitrogen treatment.
We will
sounded,
make sure that nothing will go to the lake. They are
Yes.
200 feet away from the lake.
We're a couple of hundred feet away anyway.
Okay.
How about
so
snow?
Well,
that's
let him
your pro-
finish,
that-
Gino.
That's nature problem. You talk to God about snow. Nothing to do with us.
No, I'm talking about potentially removing the snow. I
Well,
would prefer that they
you
leave
go to the
snow.
highway department, you tell them that you're so concerned about the snow. The department of this board has no responsibility removal of snow.
June-
And
Gino-
I
No.
appreciate-
It's
I
the
appreciate your-
recharge, it's the
your
recharge
concern.
from the melting snow into
Gino,
the
just let him
groundwater.
finish. Let him finish his presentation, and
Go
then we
ahead.
can open it up.
So anyway, it's a recharge concerns. Sounds like they've got most of the bases covered. Have to make, study the plans in a little more detail. And also a little bit of concern about the setbacks of the septic systems and the existing wells. Have we identified all the well sites? Some people don't know where their wells are.
Yeah, that was,
Is my concern.
are you doing that for the developments?
We will certainly be doing that, yeah. We'll be required to do that as part of the definitive permitting
Yeah.
through your board, yeah.
Okay.
That is a requirement, and you'll fulfill that. Good,
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
excellent.
Yeah, we have.
As an abundance of caution, I'm saying perhaps abutters should have their wells tested. What can happen is, oh, my well water's bad now. Well, was it good
Yeah.
before? It's-
Yeah, we've
a lot of
actually
people
had that
don't
happen.
measure that, yes. Right.
Is there going to be town water for this?
Yes.
Okay. And is there town water on Cricket Lane? On Spec Pond?
No, not now.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
coming.
Will this development have the same stormwater runoff
Yes,
system as the other one?
we are, well, it's slightly different, but the net result's the same. We are infiltrating 100% of the runoff from the site. So we're not taking, I mean, obviously, we're proposing water mains, so it'll be a connection to the already permitted wells that were identified by the presentation. But we're not withdrawing any new water from this, so there are no wells on this
Good.
property. Stormwater is being recharged, again, in accordance with Massachusetts stormwater management policy, so there's a lot of different treatment things that we have to do nowadays. You can't just dump it back in there without treating it first.
Right, right.
Which gets to some of the snow concerns. A lot of those things are in place for that purpose, to collect sediment things that end up in the snowbank during the winter. And we're obviously putting the the water that comes down the water main goes into the ground through a permitted Title V compliant septic system. So
We got a couple of questions or comments right here.
Sure. Adam Boucher, 20 Cricket Lane. Have a bit of a background in ecology and geology, so I just wanted to echo some of the similar concerns, but also as a person who whose property is sort of downhill on the lake side of where the development is being proposed. I'm curious, with that high concentration of septic systems, the EPA suggested that any area with more than one septic system per 16 acres was a site of potential contamination. Just wondering if there is contamination to the wells downhill in the direction of the groundwater flow, or some issue with where the water level drops to a point where the well is no longer viable. I guess who's responsible, and what actions are being taken to mitigate the possibility of that? And also in terms of the issues with the lake water quality, although nitrogen and phosphorus pollution is not currently an issue, it can, in certain conditions, contribute to hypoxia and oxia, the problems that he was discussing in the presentation. And lakes and ponds in particular have been shown to be systems with tipping points. So you can add just a little bit more nutrient pollution, and suddenly you get this flip in the system where you have a lot of algal blooms and all these ecological problems that can emerge. So I just wanted to raise that concern. Also, being having a well downhill of the development, and also for the quality of the water in the pond, which is also an important source of drinking water for the town.
Would you be kind enough to give him an answer?
Quick question, did you say if there's more than one septic per 16 acres?
That was from an EPA report that suggested that would be a site of potential contamination. It's not a regulation, it's just a guideline for where you would look to see, okay, I need to pay attention in this scenario.
So how many?
I just wanted to make sure I heard you right.
How many systems are on Cricket Lane then?
Right, well, you're talking about increasing the amount of systems by how many times, 3 or 4?
So all I can say is the regulations that we're fall under, meaning Title V regulations, Mass DEP, stormwater regulations. In this case, we don't fall under Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act because we don't have an associated buffer zone. But all those regulations are what we, as the design engineering community, use to put these together and to document compliance with those.
So can you address directly his concern about down gradient wells?
Well, I'm trying. So,
Okay.
you know, compliance with those regulations, those regulations are in part, are written to do just that, to protect the environment. So that's the standard we're using. It sounds like he may have more of a background in ecology and maybe hydrogeology than I do. But all I can say is we're designing this in compliance with we will have to document that we have the enough adequate distance to wells per Title V.
So those are the types of things you're looking for, right?
We just have to do that. We can't get a permit.
And then you do
Your
a
board
nit-
will not give us a permit if we're less than
Nitrogen removal?
We're not proposing nitrogen removal here because
So
we're
that
not.
might be something you want to think about.
So I guess my concern is more the discretion of the regulatory agencies to consider the particular situation, and I don't know specifically what the sedimentation or the sedimentology and the geology of that particular area is. I don't know if that kind of information is available or has been looked at, but it's just a concern. And if there is a problem down the line, I guess what happens? Who is responsible for
Yeah, so
addressing that?
if they're not coming in and asking for a variance on their septics, then we don't have
We don't have
much
any.
say, if any. But I think it's good that you voiced your concern, and maybe you would consider putting in nitrogen treatment, given the proximity to Spec Pond
The lady was
and
saying.
what we just heard. But also, they are going to do a well survey, and I would recommend that I think I have to look at it a little better if they have to sample them ahead of time, but it would be good for you to sample your well before.
Yeah, we wouldn't
As a
sample them.
baseline?
Yeah, we
Okay,
wouldn't- we
so you
wouldn't.
want to do a baseline?
Right.
Yeah, the association was suggesting a baseline well check, correct?
They weren't going to sample them, I don't think.
We wouldn't be required to sample.
No, but the association suggested
I
that
think it
maybe
was-
prior
it's a
to
good-
the project, everybody have their wells tested.
Yeah.
So you'll know when and if something happened to the
Some of their wells, so all of these septic systems will be compliant with the distance,
Mhm.
but some of their existing wells might not be compliant with the distance between their current well to their neighbor's septic
Right.
system.
So you would just want to
So
get a
after they do
baseline.
that test, they might wanna reconfigure some of their own wells to make sure they're not too close to their neighbor's septic.
Sure.
And we had
then,
another question or
30
comment?
additional
State your name, man.
My name's Jennifer Manicum, and I live at 11 Cricket Lane. I'm a direct abutter to this project. It literally backs right up to my backyard, and I do have a well, as do many of the residents on Cricket Lane. Most of the wells are private. So I have a couple questions. I presume that the report that the water department provided that assured that the water quality of Littleton water was not affected for the citizens of Littleton. I presume that was required to ensure that this development would not impact the citizens of Littleton negatively. So I guess I feel that I'm a citizen of Littleton, and I have a private well. So does this board or the town have an obligation to take the quality and the safety of my water into consideration in considering this development?
You can have your water tested to
At
the
my
water
own-
department.
At my own expense?
No, to the water department of Littleton,
Mhm.
even though it's your well. So we have nothing to do with it, but you can have it that check anytime you want.
Because I think that, while you asked how large this development was, and Mr. Kennard replied that it was 12 acres, but this bylaw only requires that 30% of that is not buildable space, so there's actually 30 houses on 8 acres. So 30 septic systems on 8 acres. Unique septics with their own leaching fields.
Mhm.
And since most of us, or many of us, our personal wells are fed by that field, I'm not versed in how all of that construction is going to impact the groundwater, but I have heard that there are groundwater concerns already. So I would, this is a new bylaw. It's brand new, and everyone's learning about it. There's potentially benefit to the town. We've all expressed surprise, as this board has, that it's not age restricted, even though it's called the senior housing bylaw. This bylaw allows developers to build 4 times as many homes per acre as they would be allowed to build conventionally. So I would say, for the benefit of that opportunity for developers, I would hope that developers would go the extra mile when impacting a neighborhood so singularly that, as is happening in this Jonesfield property. It's significant development, it's large development, it's tripling the amount of homes that are found in that area. Many of those residents have private wells, and so to allay these concerns, I recognize that they have identified that they only need to be 100 feet from my well. So by the letter of the law, that is true. But I would love to see more partnership from the developer to enact the spirit of this law and the intent of this law, which not only includes providing opportunities for senior housing, which may or may not happen, but explicitly says, not to the detriment of the communities that these developments are happening in. So this is an inflection point for our town. This is a brand new opportunity and also a brand new risk for those of us who are impacted by these developments. And I just ask clearly and with a heartfelt desire that all the boards that are evaluating these proposals, not that you would not do this anyway, but that you are very focused on all of the stakeholders in this development. Not just the developer and not just the potential owners of these homes, but the neighborhoods and the town people who are impacted by these developments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming, and we're trying to be transparent, at least on this board, and I think the other boards too, so I encourage you to, participate in the other board hearings too. Let your voice be heard. Yeah, you're right, there's the law, and then there's the actual impact, and trying to figure that out.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Before I forget, when you develop this home and you sell real estate, they say, emphasize that those septic systems should be cleaned every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
That will
It's on our plans.
not impact, you know what I mean, the leach field. You keep it clean, and that will be okay. Don't come back here 25 years, and the septic system goes like that, and then we have problems. Then the lady says, look, see what happened? Make sure actually, there should be a law to emphasize to the customer, when you buy that house, every 2 years, you clean the septic system, not every 5 or 6 years.
Does anyone have any other comments? Do you have anything else?
I don't.
Oh, we have
Yes,
another.
sir.
Yeah, I think the point that is sort of made, but the question really is, does the Board of Health have any responsibility when permitting a new field to protect any adjacent wells, any adjacent water supplies? So you've got to consider whether or not you have a responsibility to the neighbors on Cricket Lane. All those houses but one are on private wells. And the point about the acreage, I'm a little unclear. I guess things have changed since I was on the Board of Health a million years ago. Title V allows how much discharge per acre in a Zone 3?
Well, in a Zone 2, if it was in a nitrogen-sensitive area, it would be restricted to 440 gallons per day per acre.
Okay, that's not the question I asked. We're in a zone, this is.
So in a Zone 3, it does not have a restriction.
None whatsoever?
Correct.
You can discharge 500 gallons per unit?
Correct.
Okay, town bylaws, what do they say?
I don't think that we address it. To tell you the truth, I don't know the answer. Does anyone?
There
We
is
have to look it
no
up. That's-
restriction.
That's a good point, though.
Stuff that needs to be looked at.
Yeah, we are looking at the bylaws, so thank you for bringing that up.
Well, thank you for coming.
But I don't think we can change, the bylaws can change anything because these guys have already pulled permits and things.
Yeah, you can.
We can't change it.
Well, I feel like we've exhausted our discussion time, so I appreciate your
Oh,
giving
thank
us
you.
ample time
Thanks,
to
that was
do
helpful.
for both projects, so we
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
And thank you for everybody for participating in the conversation. So, we have a continued discussion, proposed regulation changes. And we all have a very large font set of proposed regulation changes.
Thank you for coming.
We're going to take a 3-minute break in case anyone needs.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Maybe 5.
Maybe I can get
Time
another.
to do this?
They had told me that they were proposing senior.
We're just gonna go by a little bit, right?
Yeah, why don't we just
Little bit.
touch it,
Next
see
time
what
we'll more.
people's reaction is.
A lot to go through.
Yeah.
We go little by little.
but it sounds to me like they changed their plan to accommodate that. So that's good news. And,
See the difference between this, honey? I can see with my glasses.
Yeah.
I see the difference.
That's why we did that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. We take care
I
of
was gonna
that.
say thank you many times. Thank you.
So perhaps that's as of today.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think so far? You enjoy it?
Okay, thank you so much.
Enjoy to be the
Really
member
appreciate
of
you
the
for
board?
coming in.
Thank you, honey, thank you. Huh? You enjoying?
I am enjoying it.
You sure? The marathon is long. You sure you're gonna be able to handle it? I don't know
Can
if-
you?
I don't know if Kevin, he's gonna be able to handle it.
You know, I got a coffee just for,
You gonna go for a drink? No?
gotta wake up early.
Oh. See what happened when you're working? You gotta take some time off. Oh, you can't because you got 2 kids. 3.
For young kids, he's got a
3
long
young
way to
kids.
go.
A lot of energy.
Ah, well. Oh, yeah, we gotta see it. All right. You still like me? Good.
How could I not?
You didn't get mad when I raised my voice?
Is that raising your voice?
When was that?
I didn't
Tonight?
even notice.
I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out. My voice is getting better. I couldn't even talk this morning, my voice was...
Really?
I'm taking medicine.
Sorry, what did I miss?
Kidney stone. Don't you know that I wasn't...
All right, continued discussion, proposed regulation changes. So we have,
Hey, sit down in front of us, will you?
It's not a hearing,
we have large font, yes, this is a continued
Thank you
discussion.
for coming.
Large font
I got the large one, I have the glass. I bought the carriages for the.
pages here. And our homework was, everyone was supposed to go home and read it and come back with your comments and opinions. So, I don't know how much in the comments and opinions. I thought that the question that gentleman brought up on the acreage related to septics and wells was a good one. So I was gonna follow up on that.
Zone 2 versus
Uh,
Zone 3.
Yeah. But as far as what we have here, do we want to go down the line? Louise, do you have any questions, comments, anything?
Are we going to go through?
From the beginning?
Well, I thought, has everybody taken a look and made their notes?
I didn't have this one here, so I didn't have a chance to go.
No. So, it's the same as last time we went through.
Well, it's after Jim gave us his comments, and then those were included.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay, we can do that. I don't know if we'll make it the whole way, but
There was,
give it a try.
there was a question about the first development that's having its own septic, it's having its own sewage system, the first, not Jones, the other one.
Yeah, King Street. So it's,
Did
since
we,
it's...
we had something about non-municipally owned, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
non-municipally owned.
And we
Is that-
spoke to Jim about that, and he said the state's got a good handle on it.
Oh, okay. All right, yep, I remember I was there for that part, at least. Who typed this? You?
I did some typing.
2 Ts in it.
Well, okay, if we're gonna go through, let's each take one. Kevin, you want the first one?
So, Madam Chair, before you get started, if you'd like, we were probably here when these were changed, so if you have questions about the history, how they were changed, why they were repealed, things like that, let us know.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I'd like to give a little history too.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
what's your,
Why were they changed every 2 years, it seems like?
Just luck of the draw, I think, where we got around to it. I think there was, maybe there was a change in the board member. You know, maybe it was just some sort of scheduled review, but I think that maybe, we didn't accomplish as much as we want with them at the time, or, you know, they always, whenever you look at them, most of the time, you make a big change, you look back and say, oh, should have done that. You know, like for instance, there's one regulation here that I've been dealing with this, it seems to be like a typo, like there's a misplaced comma, and it seems to be the intent is changed about the about notifying abutters when you're working within 10 feet of a property line.
So we
something
also,
like
we
that would be
also
changing.
check with other towns too.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't just say, oh, this sounds good, we're gonna do this. We checked with like Bolton and Berlin, everybody that was in the, excuse me, the particular area that we're in. But one of the things I'd like to point out to everybody that way back in the early days of Title V, when they would have to give variances out for everything, you know, they come up with their own rules. I got caught in it, and I will address that. But in those days, Peter Castelli said they used to go to midnight every night. So one thing you guys got to think about is the time you want to spend. And when I got on the board, they had cut some out. We were still going to 10 o'clock almost every meeting, depending on, you know, the activity in the town. And I think probably the average, we went now in meetings was like 9 o'clock. We put everything in Title V, then you don't have to do all these variances. And what are you getting out of them? In my own particular case, when I built my house, this was a case in point. The Title V says you had to be 25 feet the edge of the bed from a storm drain. Well, for whatever reason, my engineer, who drew up the plans, made it 49 feet and 6 inches back onto it. So that took up an hour and a half of discussion on the Board of Health. They couldn't change it, had to go back and all redrawn plan and come back. That was purpose then. They did not serve the public well. It wasn't affecting the environment. There was no sound reasons for doing some of the things they did. Everything, you go around town and look at the mounds, you can see the result of that. You take the next house next to it that came under the new regulations, and you don't see the mound. Is the place with the mound any safer than the one without? No one knows for sure, because it's all depends on what you put in that system. So that's the one point that I'd like to make. When people jump into changing things, plus the fact, how much more work are you gonna put on your health inspector? He doesn't come for nothing. He gets paid. And when you add a lot to his work routine, if you will, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a little bit of a problem. That's all I'll say on that. The individual regulations, I think, that's something we can talk about next.
So my thing is, when you start adding on regulations, not necessarily Jim or you guys, how late you want to be, but it's balancing how much you're going to put these people through, the applicants through, for what environmental benefit.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. So, and then when we started repealing some of these things, we were looking at, why is Littleton different from anywhere else? And I think there's something in Title V or some regulation somewhere that says if you're going to make local regulations, you have to justify them by saying why. Look, your town is different. I haven't been able to find it in a while, but it's still not a bad test, even if it's not written anywhere. Why are we doing this? What is the additional benefit? And so a lot of these were that we felt that weren't benefits, so that's why we started deleting a lot of them. You'll see a lot of deletions. There were some modifications. There really weren't any additions, just because sitting on both sides of the table, I see what people go through for nominal environmental benefit. So, let you know.
By the way, I'm Peter Yap. Mr. Ted just said, if you didn't know, it's like I had almost 10 years on the Board of Health. And would you have
6?
You were a newcomer. Sadly.
You came after me.
I hope.
You came after me.
Yeah.
I remember when I started, Peter, you said that you tried to make it easy for people so that they didn't have to go back and hire an engineer, have more plans
Right.
done, so.
And that used to be done. It was a game. I don't know why they did it, years back. And it started changing. They made everything difficult. It would take you like 3 months to get a permit.
Mhm.
We looked at that process and narrowed that process down. What's it take now, Shelley? About a week, 2 weeks maybe?
Yeah, but back then it was 6 months. I was
people
working
would
for
go
Russ
on
then, and
vacation
it was 6 months minimum.
They go on vacation, they have a stack of stuff while you're waiting with your septic system failed and all that. The other thing too,
That's not good for the environment either.
no,
The study.
the other thing to keep in mind, when people start talking about changing rules, they start thinking about building, you know, new construction. But the same regulations affect old houses too, or old things, because if you change the room count, your new construction on that building, you're under the same rules as that brand-new house that's going in on that vacant lot. So when you make those rules, and you got the people that have a sick kid or a parent that has to come and live with them,
Handicap.
and you have to try to expand your septic system to accommodate them, you won't be able to do it, because you'll be under new construction. And those rules that you've changed will apply to them. So when you're looking at rule changes, you want to look at it universally of who is it going to affect, and why and where. So that's kind of my little sermon for the night.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I struggle with, is that in certain circumstances, like you're talking about, of course, you'd want to allow a variance if they're bringing in an elderly parent, but how do you balance that with keeping a handle on the rest of the upgrades that would come through there?
Would you recommend?
In the sense of what,
Well, granting variances in one situation and not in another, rather than just being very straightforward about it.
Maybe, would you recommend that for an addition? Like if someone's putting an addition on, to not classify that as new construction?
that is new construction under Title V.
If you have an increase in flow, if you have an additional bedroom, it's increase in flow.
Or an increase in
What if you
rooms.
take away a bedroom here and put one there?
But you said that storage shed was going to be new construction.
It is, because you're at, if
It's-
that shed were there when you were putting the septic system in, you wouldn't be able to put the septic system there,
Yeah,
right? So how's it different?
I don't know. I haven't thought it through.
Right, so it's, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Because
I
it's
think
not
they said it's
standalone.
not attached to the house.
It's not
It's
living.
nothing in Title V
But
says
anyway, we
anything
don't
about
have to
that.
go back to
It
that.
says
I'm
any
sorry.
foundation.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Yeah,
mean
then maybe
to.
we need to adjust that.
I don't want to get off that. but-
And I wasn't saying doing it, I was just needling you a little bit, you know.
But I
Sorry.
I really
Hey, you
think,
Apologize to that guy.
Yeah.
I did.
Talk about a long one.
Yeah.
That's the
For
longest
something
I've been
small.
involved with.
Right, so that's what was happening, these people were coming in for small items, you know, they come in for 3 or 4 small items, and, you know, we have 5, 6, 7, 8 hearings at night. If we can knock down some of these things that,
Yeah.
we don't, doesn't affect the environment, let's knock them off, but I gotta stop rambling. Let you guys get to it.
no,
Hey, let them get to it,
what's that?
let them get to it.
What's
You
that?
gonna ramble all night?
No, I just gotta say, my advice to them was to take it slow and make sure what you're doing, and ask people.
Have you guys read these?
Yes.
Do you have comments on
I
these?
haven't read it yet.
Do you have comments on each one?
Yes.
He did.
No.
Here, that would be great to get your
Oh,
comments.
that's a good
too.
Yeah.
idea.
Well, you
Well,
should
I was
really
tonight.
take comments.
You guys are alumni, right? So,
Well, I think it's more or less,
It's not, this isn't in a
Yeah.
public hearing stage
Yeah.
yet, so you should really wait until you have the public hearing, and then they can submit their
Oh,
comments
but-
as
But
comments from the public.
this is, we're trying to get everything in the record, so this will be public, this is public information because it's going to be part of the record.
and I agree
so
with
that
that to
you
a degree.
can-
If you want to use our experience, and if it works, we could provide written comments, because some of these things you don't want, you want to get
Taken out
figured out
before public
before you
hearing.
get there.
Well, I think that as a citizen, you're allowed to comment on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
this
why
is
we
part of
post
the
it.
public record. And this is kind of what I was getting at,
Yeah.
you know, understanding the open meeting law, was that there should be a free flow, you know, we should be overly constrained in getting information,
Well, the other thing
discussing
too, I
things.
think Title V came out in '78, and then all the towns on top of it promulgated their own rules, probably around '80. Would you go buy a car now that's 36 years old?
Well, the environment's really old, so it's not really the same as a car.
And it's not getting any
I understand
better
what the
either.
environment is, but they also get, technology has changed.
No, I know.
and-
I know,
and all
yeah, you're
that
right.
stuff, it's, you're not dealing with the
No,
same.
no, it's a good point.
But the regulations were also updated, there was a huge
They're all
update in
updated.
'96.
Yep.
And then 2006, there was a
Yeah.
smaller
I
one.
mean, I looked at the regs from '98 even, and they were with the distances and the setbacks, so you couldn't have done anything,
Yeah.
right? So.
Well, before
I-
'96, yeah.
I think the thought process on this is that our town is extraordinary and special, and it shouldn't just go by Title V like any other town in the state. I think we need to, let people know how important it is.
Right, so one last comment, so there may be one additional column on here that you may want to add is, for that, why is it, what is it justified, how did you
Yeah.
get to this point, and things like that. What is the environmental justification, or, whatever, things like that, so.
And I actually think that we can do that, but I'm really glad that you brought that up, that we need to keep a keen eye on how difficult it will be, so that's really helpful. Thank you for coming in.
I think
Well, you
that,
might make a lot of work for yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is, you have to do a perk test either way, what the level is, passing level, 100 feet from a wetland, that's not going to add it. So some of it won't, but some of it might, so that'd be good to take a good look at.
But anything over Title V, is you could grant a variance.
We could.
So you're gonna have people coming in for variances. Whether you're gonna pass them or not,
Yeah.
they're still gonna come in and you're obligated to deal with those people.
Yeah.
So if you do something like that, you might trigger 100 people,
Yeah.
And if you have a policy, and you vary the policy all the time, then you really don't have a policy. Right.
Yeah, we're trying not to do that.
Yeah.
It might be helpful to mark up this, and maybe you said something about explaining why some of them were eliminated back then, maybe like just sort of putting a note in, what the thinking was in eliminating them for the board to review for the next meeting, and then they can kind of go back and, decide if they want to tweak them from there, seeing that you two were, spearheading, a lot of these major changes and moving it closer to Title V.
One of the things, Shelley, is that the other towns also dropped a lot of their regulations and got in line with Title V. Sorry, I don't talk very good. But that was some of the reasoning too. If you're looking at the stuff, and like you're looking at stuff that's 30 years old.
Oh, I totally agree with you. We used to like draw straws who would come to Littleton, because nobody wanted to come to Littleton hearings because you needed so many variances and the meetings went till midnight.
Well, our intent isn't to do that.
No,
I just wanna
our
make that
intent is to
clear.
protect the
That is
environment.
That's not our intent. And we appreciate the coaching on how not to go there.
yeah, because some of these that were repealed, we're talking about putting back in, so if we have their
Yeah, that's
feedback.
exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, and I also think that, there wasn't a public hearing when you guys took them out. So,
Oh, yeah, there was.
no.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be a public hearing in order for them to change.
Only to put it back in, not to take them out.
No, we had public hearings on every regulation
I'm pretty
change.
sure regulation
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Maybe it just wasn't recorded.
Yeah, that's law.
That's law.
To take them out?
Anytime you amend a regulation,
I don't think so.
I'm not gonna argue the point, you can look up, it's, I think we need to be on that, I think,
Jim told me you didn't need a public hearing to take them out.
He said you don't need one? Well, but we were amending, anytime we amended, we did. Right,
I think it was only on the perk rate change.
I'm not gonna argue it.
Okay.
I think we can get to more fruitful discussions.
We can ask Peter Cassiari, he'd remember, but.
Well, he's not talking to you no more. I went to the cemetery, I went by there, say a prayer for him.
No.
So, other than that, that's all I got to say
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, if you want us to go, like, you do your work, we can just give you history, or if you have questions. It sounded like you had some questions about, thoughts about why some of these things might have gone away.
I know that some of these we are putting in that they should be for new construction, so we might want to be careful about that.
Right, I feel like if there's an addition, as opposed to brand new construction.
Yeah, but
going
he's
up,
saying that's considered new.
the language.
That's right.
So we should
You
have-
divide a
The
room up.
definition
Right.
of an addition or.
Look at this, say you got a great big master bedroom, it's 40 by 20.
Yep.
And you unexpectedly have twins.
You put a wall.
Put a wall in that thing, new construction.
Yeah.
You change the bedroom count. And you would fall under all the rules of new construction.
Can we modify what the definition of new construction is under Title V?
No, new construction is.
There's two standards of construction. There's new construction, which is no variances from the state, you can't vary, and then there's repair, whatever you want to call it, repair, upgrade. So there's only two standards. And
Upgrade.
anytime you're increasing the flow, you're going into the new construction
What's
standard.
changing the bedroom count?
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's increasing flow, because it's only mostly on bedroom, yeah.
And that's very specifically detailed in the email from Dave Boyer when the board got in trouble with DEP a couple years ago, what the differences are between new and upgrades.
And upgrades, you mean the septic system, not
Right.
the room count?
Peter,
You increase the
remind them that
bedroom
you can
count,
put
it's
a
new
bathroom,
construction.
and also you can put a kitchen, you can have 2 kitchens,
Oh, sure.
and a 2
Ernie Block
bathrooms.
had 43 bathrooms.
That's what I'm saying, you just remind them that it's not a new construction, that you just put an extra
I know.
kitchen,
Yeah.
for
So
whatever
there's
reason.
Rooms,
Right, as long as you don't put no bedroom. You understand now? I don't want you guys to get in trouble, I'm sick and tired to help you out, it costs me money.
Gonna run down and see Charlie, huh?
They're a good group, but sometimes,
So you want to run through these now, or do you want to have, you want to read through them?
practice staying the town.
Easy going. I don't care. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys.
when you put a new, just define like new
I just didn't know
regulation or modification, just put it, okay? That way I can relate it to it, okay, good, yeah,
Already done.
thank you. Peter, you wanna go for beer?
So could you maybe, instead of sitting here and staying, write any comments on what we've done so far?
I gotta get a copy from Shelley.
And then submit them to us?
But you have to, yeah, and then submit it back
Is
to your
that
town hall.
is that a better way to do it, or?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know when your target date is, I don't have a lot of time, I'm going on a cruise. so-
Yeah, I'm heading on vacation for 2 weeks too, so, but, you know.
Little light reading material.
Hey, wait a minute.
Little light reading material.
Yeah, no,
You guys got a lot of money, go on vacation, both of you?
we're not going together.
Not going together, this, that was
Okay.
last
It's not one of those
time.
cruises.
That was
Bye.
last time.
Thank you, Anthony.
So,
Yeah, if you want to have it.
Thank you,
back
Anthony.
Before our next meeting.
Thank you.
yeah, I'll try, Ray. If you just email me a copy, so I can just type right in the boxes. All right.
Thank you for listening
Yeah,
to
we got
us.
30.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Make a
Thank you.
motion to,
Thank you for staying.
Oh, yeah, you
So
are.
drink it with them.
How's it going, Shelley?
Going.
Make a motion to adjourn, we can continue next time.
As long as you agree to do your homework.
Yeah, everybody has to do their
I
homework.
don't have to read it now because I can see it.
Well, Gino
It
had a
wasn't
good,
like the one-
he had a good excuse, actually.
Yeah.
I had an excuse too.
And
You
remember-
did not have an
remember,
excuse.
I'm under
That was a
doctor-
long
I'm
plane
under
ride.
doctor's,
Trying to.
jurisdiction.
So
Not to stay too
you've
late.
updated these with
What's too
comments?
late?
With Jim's stuff. And
From
then,
Jim.
No
yep,
more than
so
10, that means I have enough
basically
time
just
to
going,
do it.
highlighting or.
So
I
Shelley,
love
is
you
this
guys.
your last time with us?
I hope so. No offense, but.
Well, thank you for your help and your guidance
Motion to adjourn?
and your wisdom.
Yeah, I made a motion.
I probably will come for like the
All in
first
favor, aye.
couple
Aye.
of transition.
Too bad we can't go on.
Did
Next-
somebody second?
Next time.
I did.
Okay, so
All
I
in
spent
favor,
all that
aye.
time typing
Next time.
minutes, and you guys aren't even gonna approve them.
We can probably finish
Oh, we
early
should-
next time.